The Revolutionary War. Lesson 1, Conflict. The Molasses Act of 1733. Although the British gave their colonies more freedom than the Spanish or French, they still made a number of laws that helped the businessmen in England more than the colonists. The Molasses Act of 1733 is an example of this. Many New Englanders made a living by turning molasses and sugar into rum. The Molasses Act helped the sugar plantation owners on the islands of the British West Indies. A tax was placed on the sugar and molasses that came from the islands. On top of this, the law stated that the traders in New England could only trade with the British islands. Many businessmen had been trading with the French and the Dutch. Now these men would lose money. This made the New Englanders upset with the British. Some things you want to remember. The English, the British here, made a number of laws that helped the businessmen in England more than the colonists. They were not looking out for the colonists, they were looking out for the people in England. Now remember, we talked about the colonists, the New Englanders. They made a living and they used molasses and sugar and they turned that into rum. Now the tax was placed on the sugar. England taxed the sugar and molasses, and the colonists had to pay that. So they had to pay more money than they were paying before in order for them to make their rum. The New Englanders were upset with the British because of these new laws. Do you remember our triangle? They started out in New England and they sold, the colonists in New England sold their rum to Africa, to people in Africa, the rum buyers in Africa. And they would get slaves and gold from Africa and take that to the West Indies. And those were slaves they were taking over there. And they would then trade the slaves and the gold for molasses and sugar, which they would then take to New England. And this would be molasses. We'll abbreviate it by saying MOL, and sugar, SUG, since we've run out of room. And that was called the triangular trade. So we'd start in New England, where they would take their rum that they've made, take it to Africa, trade it there for slaves and gold. Then they would take those slaves and gold to the West Indies, and they would trade those for the molasses and sugar. And then they would take that molasses and sugar back to New England. But when they got to New England, they had to pay not just the price for the sugar and the molasses, but on top of it, they had to pay a tax. That is our first lesson, first half of the lesson 1, the Molasses Act of 1733.